Welcome back. Humans spend a lot of time in the dark, especially when you're in the wilderness. The flashlight is an often overlooked tool when considering pieces of your wilderness kit. Over or underpowered torches can be a liability when in the field. Good flashlights are often useful for illuminating dark paths, finding items in the tent, and some flashlights can even be a means of self-defense, although hopefully none of you will ever have to need that. One of the most important items when considering a flashlight is the lumen output. While there's a lot of science surrounding lumens and photometry in general, we'll try to break down a little bit of it, that way you can understand. So what is a lumen? The definition is a unit of luminous flux in the International System of Units that it's equal to the amount of light given out through a solid angle by a source of 1 candela intensity radiating equally in all directions. Huh? In normal terms, a measurement of 1 lumen is equivalent to the light emitted by a single candle, stationary, uninterrupted by obstruction, and measured in total regardless of the direction that the light's traveling. 100 lumens means the light of 100 candles emit in a square meter. One specific note here to take into account is that lumens don't fluctuate in their measured value. If you see the candle flickering back and forth, lumens are constant. For bulbs that are considered non-directional, like a lamp or a light post, the total lumen output is calculated in all directions from the point of emanation. Since flashlights themselves are generally directional lights, the value of lumens are calculated from the total light output measured across the entire beam. Whether that light is useful or not, think of those furthest edges of the beam. Some of that light measured is known as spill light. It's not useful lighting, but it's measured in the total lumen rating. To make the comparison between lights easier, the European Union recently introduced a useful lumens rating that takes spill light into account. The useful lumen rating is a measurement of useful light emitted in a standard 90-degree cone from the light source. As you might expect, useful lumens output are lower compared to the omnidirectional light, but it has more relevance for understanding the capabilities of kit like flashlights or headlamps. So lumens are what pounds are to bananas, gallons are to milk, or horsepower in an engine. A higher lumen rating equates to a brighter lamp. Measuring lumens allows you to buy the amount of light that you're going to want and need, but how much will you need? There's no real firm answer for this. Factors might include your ability to haul weight or your personal preference for lighting an area up. You'll also want to keep leave no trace in mind. If you're car camping, it might not be such a problem to put up the party lights, but in the wilderness, it's a disservice to light up a spot more than you're going to need. For reference, the average car headlight is about 1,000 lumens. Most people can complete basic tasks in the dark with a flashlight that gives off just 60 lumens. So 1 lumen is really only useful in pitch black darkness. That's about 10 times brighter than the moonlight, which also depends on how wide the beam is. A wide beam spreads out the light and looks dimmer. It's not going to light up a trail, but it can be used to read a book fairly effectively or go to the toilet without messing up your dark adjusted eyes. 3 lumens is still low, but more useful than 1 lumen. This is about the brightness you'll need for a keychain light to be actually worth anything, and that's the coin or button cell type. 10 lumens is about as bright as a candle, but focused into a tight beam. This is good enough for most camping, backpacking, and hiking. It's also good enough for emergency preparedness. The average 2 AA flashlight gives you about 24 hours of run time with this amount of lumens. 30 lumens is the minimum brightness for a general purpose flashlight. 100 lumens is bright enough for most uses and throws light at a good distance of about 15 feet. An average 2 AA flashlight will give you 5 to 10 hours of run time. This is a good brightness for a pocket flashlight or a headlamp. 300 lumens is bright enough to search for people or animals over 100 feet away, and that's depending again on how wide the beam is. This is going to comfortably light up a small room or a tent by bouncing the beam off the ceiling. It's about the average brightness of a bicycle lamp. The average 2 AA flashlight will give you 2 hours of runtime. This is a good brightness for a medium-sized flashlight. Some flashlights can go as high as 500 lumens, but you really won't need anything above about 300 lumens for backpacking. If you're working at a car, boat, or RV camping site, it's likely that you'll have access to an expanded selection of power sources that allow you to choose devices that have more lumens. For example, a good car camping omnidirectional lantern is about 600 lumens. So if you're used to thinking in wattage, you're not alone. The basic message to remember here is that lumens equal brightness and watts equal power consumption. Lumens are a relatively new measurement of light for consumer products and are different from watts. For many years, incandescent bulbs were measured by the electrical energy needed to power them. This technology was fairly standard, and higher wattage bulbs were, in fact, brighter. The change from watts to lumens as a generalized measurement took place along with the adoption of low wattage LED lights. This is because LED lights can be brighter than incandescent bulbs for the wattage. So lumens, not watts, right? You should still review watts. Watts measure energy use and not light output, but higher wattage bulbs do tend to be better at producing light however you look at it. So as long as the bulbs being compared are using the same technology like LED for LED or incandescent for incandescent, you're going to be able to make that judgment. For wilderness adventurers, you might want to get pretty detailed and look at the wattage, power consumption, and average battery life, and in this case, environment and temperature do matter, and juxtapose that with your trip length in order to carry just enough batteries to last. We do advocate, though, that you bring one extra set just in case. So earlier we talked about a term known as a candela. Lumens and candelas are actually related, and the lumen is defined in relation to the candela, but there are some pointed differences between the two and specifics how they're measured. Candelas, by definition, are the base unit of luminous intensity in the international system of units that is equal to the luminous intensity in a given direction of a source which emits monochromatic radiation or frequency. That might be confusing, but essentially lumens are a numerical measurement of total light output, and the candela is a measure of light intensity in relation to the distance at which you can view it. The distance at which light is thrown from a light-emitting device is important, but the fact is you're not going to be using a candle from 50 feet away. Having a flashlight with a beam that projects a lot of distance, which is strangely enough known as the beam distance metric, is not as useful as it sounds. The average adventurer needs to illuminate only a few feet in any given direction. 1,000 lumen light is going to put out 1,000 lumens no matter what the distance you are from it. That same light can give off different candela measurements depending on different distances or angles. A good example is the difference between a lit candle and a laser pointer. Both might put out the same amount of lumens, but at a distance the candle is going to be a lot harder to see than a laser. That's because the laser's light is focused into a single, tight beam. We want to thank you for watching. You'll see now that lumens are a good crossroads between that technical accuracy of wattage and candelas, but it's easy for most adventurers to understand. More lumens do equal a brighter light, but now you can be a bit more specific on the functions and the features of your torch. We're going to encourage you to review different options at your local store, maybe give them a try, and let us know in the comments about what you came up with. If you liked what you saw and learned something, please subscribe, give us a like and a thumbs up, and follow us on Twitter at WTRLS1.